My name is Amara Mitchell. I'm 32 years old. And 3 weeks ago, my life split into two completely different realities. The first reality was the one everyone could see. I was a dental office administrator making $32,000 a year. I drove a 2009 Toyota Corolla with a cracked windshield and 200,000 miles on it. I lived in a 500-square-foot studio apartment in East Point where the AC only worked when it felt like it. I worked my day job 9 to 5, then logged into my second job doing remote data entry from 6 to midnight. On weekends, I drove for Uber and delivered groceries through Instacart. I was drowning. Every month was a calculation of which bill could wait, which friend's birthday I'd have to skip, which meal I could replace with ramen noodles to make it to the next paycheck. That was the reality everyone saw. The second reality, the one that started 3 weeks ago on a random Tuesday afternoon, was very different. I was sitting in my car in the back parking lot of the dental clinic. It was 1:15 p.m. I had 45 minutes before my afternoon shift started. I was eating a peanut butter sandwich I'd made at 6 a.m. and checking my phone. I had exactly one hobby, one small stupid indulgence I allowed myself. Every Tuesday and Friday, I bought a single Powerball ticket. $3. That was it. My only vice. I opened the lottery app to check my numbers from Saturday's drawing. I wasn't expecting anything. I never expected anything. It was just a small daydream, a brief escape while I ate my sandwich. The app loaded. A banner appeared across the top of the screen. "See, congratulations. You are a jackpot winner." I blinked. I read it again. Ticket purchased at Quick Trip, Cascade Road. Jackpot, $88 million. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just sat there in my hot car holding my phone, staring at 8 digits. $88 million. I closed the app. I opened it again. The message was still there. I checked the numbers on my ticket against the winning numbers displayed on the screen. One by one. 32,456 Powerball. 11. They matched. Every single one. That's when my phone buzzed in my hand. A text message from my brother Marcus. "Yo sis, my car broke down on 85. AAA saying it's gonna be $200 to tow it. Can you sell me? I'm stuck out here." I looked at the lottery notification. $88 million. I looked at my brother's text. $200. This was my family. My older brother Marcus, 34 years old, perpetually between jobs and always needing just a little bit more. My mother, who saw him as the golden child who could do no wrong, and saw me as the family ATM who could always find a little more to give. A strange coldness settled over me. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even hurt. It was clarity. I had spent my entire adult life bailing out my family, covering Marcus's rent when he got fired again, paying my mother's cable bill when she overspent on Marcus's birthday gifts, lending money I never got back for emergencies that were never really emergencies. And now I had $88 million. And my brother wanted 200. I looked at his text message, the blinking cursor waiting for my response. The casual expectation that I would drop everything and solve his problem like I always did. I deleted the message. I turned the key in my ignition. My old Corolla coughed to life. I didn't drive to the lottery office. I didn't call anyone. I didn't celebrate. I opened the Instacart app and accepted the next grocery delivery order. Because I had just realized something. Something important. Before I told anyone about this money, before I let it change anything, I needed to know something. I needed to know who my family really was. Not who they pretended to be at Sunday dinners or holiday gatherings. Who they really were when I actually needed them. So I decided to create a test. A simple test. I would wait. I would stay quiet. And when the time was right, I would ask them for help. Not $88 million. Not even $88,000. Just $2,000. A small, reasonable amount to help their daughter, their sister, avoid being evicted. And I would see what they did. My silence was the first weapon I ever used. And it was devastating in its simplicity. 1 week after I saw those numbers, I sat in the office of the most expensive lawyer I could find in Atlanta. His name was Hakeem Washington. His office was on the 40th floor of a glass tower in Buckhead. The view stretched all the way to Stone Mountain. The chairs were Italian leather. The coffee was served in actual china. I was wearing my dental clinic polo shirt and my oldest jeans. I probably looked like I'd walked into the wrong building. But when I sat down across from Mr. Washington and told him why I was there, his expression didn't change. He just listened. "I won the Powerball," I said. 88 million. I haven't claimed it yet. I want to do this right. He nodded slowly. Smart. Very smart. Most people claim immediately and regret it for the rest of their lives. Over the next 2 hours, he walked me through everything. We created an anonymous LLC called Carter Holdings. We discussed the lump sum versus annuity. We talked about taxes, investments, protection. The lump sum after federal and state taxes will be approximately $45.4 million, he said. I recommend claiming anonymously through the LLC, which Georgia allows. Your name never goes public. That's what I want, I said. Complete anonymity. May I ask why? He said, studying me. Most people want their family to know, want to help their loved ones. I looked out at the Atlanta skyline, at the city where I'd spent my whole life struggling. I want to test them first, I said quietly. I want to see who they really are when I have nothing. Mr. Washington was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a man who had seen human nature at its worst. Miss Mitchell, he said, I think you and I are going to work very well together. The claim was processed 10 days later. The money hit my new private account on a Wednesday morning. I checked my banking app 3 times that day just to make sure it was real. Balance, $45,400,000. It was real. I was one of the richest people in Georgia, and absolutely no one knew. I went to work at the dental clinic that afternoon. I filed patient charts. I answered phones. I ate my peanut butter sandwich in the break room. And I started planning. That Saturday, I went to visit Miss Evelyn. Miss Evelyn Washington was 68 years old. She lived in a small apartment in a senior complex in West End. She'd been my grandmother's best friend for 50 years. When my grandmother died 6 years ago, Miss Evelyn was the only person who came to check on me. Not my mother, not my brother, just Miss Evelyn. She'd helped me when I couldn't afford textbooks in college. She'd let me stay on her couch when my first apartment fell through. She'd made sure I ate when I was working 3 jobs and forgetting to feed myself. She lived on Social Security and whatever she made selling her homemade pound cakes at church bake sales. Her apartment was tiny but spotless. Pictures of Jesus and Martin Luther King Jr. on the walls. A small kitchen that always smelled like vanilla and butter. Amara, baby, she said when she opened the door. Come in, come in. I just pulled a cake out of the oven. We sat in her small living room. She served me a slice of warm pound cake with a glass of cold milk. How are you doing, baby? She asked. You look tired. I'm okay, Miss Evelyn, I said. Just working a lot. She studied my face with those sharp eyes. You working too much. That family of yours helping you out at all? I shook my head. Not really. She made a disapproving sound. Your brother's still out of work? He says he's between opportunities. Between opportunities, she repeated, her voice flat. That boy been between opportunities his whole life. And your mama still making excuses for him? Always, I said quietly. Miss Evelyn reached across and patted my hand. You're a good girl, Amara. Too good. You keep giving and giving, and they keep taking and taking. One day you're gonna have to stop. Maybe, I said. She looked at me for a long moment. You got something on your mind. I can tell. I almost told her then. Almost told her everything. But I couldn't. Not yet. The test wasn't complete. Just thinking about the future, I said instead. Wondering what it would be like to not worry about money all the time. Miss Evelyn smiled sadly. Baby, I've been wondering that for 40 years. But you know what I learned? Money can't buy you family. But it sure can show you who your real family is. Those words stayed with me as I drove home that night. It was time to run the test. Sunday dinner at my mother's house was a tradition. Every week, without fail, the family gathered at her place in College Park. The house was modest but comfortable. My mother Diane had lived there for 20 years. She'd paid it off 5 years ago and loved to remind everyone that she owned her home free and clear. I arrived at 5 p.m. My brother Marcus's car, a black Dodge Charger he couldn't afford, was already in the driveway. His girlfriend Shayna's white BMW was parked behind it. The smell hit me the moment I walked in. Fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, collard greens, cornbread. My mother's cooking was one of the few things about these dinners I still enjoyed. Marcus was sprawled on the couch, a beer in his hand, watching the game on the 70-inch TV I'd helped my mother buy last year when Marcus maxed out her Best Buy card. What's up, little sis? He said without looking at me. Shayna was in the kitchen with my mother. Shayna was 28, a dental hygienist, and she never let any of us forget that she made more money than Marcus. Hey Amara, Shayna said, barely glancing up from her phone. Still doing the Instacart thing? Yeah, I said. That's so crazy, she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. I could never. All that driving for like what, $10 an hour? My mother turned from the stove. Amara, baby, set the table. I set the table. We sat down. We ate. This was always the hard part. Watching them eat food my mother had bought with her retirement money. Watching Marcus take 3 pieces of chicken while talking about the vacation to Aruba he and Shayna were planning. $5,000 all-inclusive, he was saying. Private beach access, unlimited drinks. We deserve it before the baby comes. I looked up. Baby? Shayna beamed, placing a hand on her flat stomach. We're trying. I'm gonna be the hottest pregnant woman you've ever seen. My mother glowed. My grandbaby. Finally, I've been waiting so long. I was 32. I'd been single for 3 years. My mother had stopped asking me about relationships 2 years ago. I took a breath. This was it. This was the moment. I need to talk to you all about something, I said. The table went quiet. All eyes turned to me. I'm in trouble, I said, letting my voice shake. The clinic cut my hours back, and my landlord just raised my rent by $300. I can't make the payment. They gave me 48 hours or I'm evicted. Silence. Marcus took a sip of his beer. Damn, sis. That's rough. I just need $2,000, I continued. Just to cover this month and next month while I figure things out. I'll pay it back. Every penny. I swear. More silence. Then Marcus laughed. It was a short, sharp bark of a laugh. $2,000? He said. Amara, come on. You gotta learn to manage your money better. I thought you were working 2 jobs. Where's all that cash going? I looked at my mother. Mom, please. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. My mother sighed. A long, tired, annoyed sigh. Amara, she said. I'm on a fixed income. I can't just hand out $2,000 every time someone has a crisis. I have to think about my future. About Marcus and the baby. But I'm your daughter too, I whispered. Then act like it, she said sharply. Act like a grown woman and handle your own problems. Don't come in here ruining Sunday dinner with your drama. The words hit me like a slap. Marcus stood up. Yeah, sis. Sorry, but I gotta save my money. Shayna's pregnant. I have priorities now. Real priorities. Shayna smirked into her wineglass. Maybe you should just move back in with your mom. I'm sure she'd let you sleep in the basement. The basement that flooded every time it rained. I sat there, surrounded by people who were supposed to love me, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just cold, clear certainty. They had failed. I stood up. I need some air. I walked out onto the front porch. The screen door slammed behind me. I stood there in the humid evening, my hands clenched into fists, and I felt the test complete itself in my mind. 1 down. But there were others. Others who owed me. Others who I'd helped when they needed it. I needed to know if anyone would pass. I sat in my car outside my mother's house. Through the window, I could see them laughing. The game was back on. Dinner continued as if I'd never been there. I pulled out my phone. I had a list in my head. A list of people I'd helped over the years. People who told me they'd always be there for me. First call, my cousin Tisha. 2 years ago, Tisha's husband put her out. She showed up at my apartment with her 2 kids and 3 suitcases. I let them stay for 4 months. I bought groceries, paid the extra utilities, watched her kids while she worked. I never asked for anything back. I dialed her number. Hey girl, she answered, her voice cheerful. Hey Tisha, I said. I need to talk to you about something. I told her the story. The eviction, the $2,000, the desperation. There was a long pause. Damn, Amara, she finally said. That's crazy. But girl, I just paid for Kayla's braces. $800. I'm tapped out. I understand, I said quietly. I just didn't know who else to call. Oh, she said, her voice brightening. You know what? There's this payday loan place on Memorial Drive. The interest is insane, like 400% or something. But if you're really desperate, they'll give you cash today. She was offering me a trap, a financial death spiral, just to get me off the phone. Thanks, I said, my voice hollow. I'll think about it. I hung up. Second call. My Uncle Raymond. 6 months ago, Uncle Raymond called me at 2 in the morning. He was having chest pains. His wife was out of town. He was alone and scared. I drove 3 hours to his house in Macon. I got him to the hospital. I held his hand while he cried. The doctor said if I'd been 30 minutes later, his heart attack would have killed him. I'd saved his life. I dialed. Amara, baby girl, he answered, his voice warm. What's going on? I told him everything. Another pause. Now that's tough, he said slowly. 2,000. That's a lot of money, niece. Times are tight for everybody right now. I know, Uncle Ray. I just thought maybe. You know, I wish I could help, he interrupted. I really do. But you gotta learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Can't be running to family every time something goes wrong. In the background, I heard it. The unmistakable sound of a video game. Gunfire and explosions. That PlayStation I'd bought him for Christmas last year when he said he was bored during recovery. $700 I'd charged to my credit card. I was still paying it off. I understand, I said. You're a strong woman, Amara. You'll figure it out. I hung up. I sat there in the growing darkness, my phone in my lap. I made 3 more calls that night. My Aunt Patricia, my mother's best friend who always called me her bonus daughter, my childhood friend Monica. Every single one had the same response. Sympathy, excuses, advice on how to handle my money better, suggestions for predatory loans or government assistance. Not one of them offered to help. Not one of them even asked how I'd been managing before this. It was almost funny. Almost. The people I'd fed. The people I'd housed. The people I'd driven across states for, lent money to, covered bills for, stayed up all night helping. All of them had one thing in common. They'd all said I'll never forget this when I helped them. Turned out never forget meant forget immediately when it's inconvenient. By 9 p.m., I was done. The test was complete. The results were clear. I was completely, totally alone. I sat in my car outside a closed gas station and I let myself feel it. The weight of it. The truth of it. 32 years of being the responsible one. The reliable one. The one who always showed up. And when I needed them, they all disappeared. But then I thought about something Miss Evelyn had said. Money can show you who your real family is. I looked at my phone. At my banking app. At the number I'd been checking obsessively for the past 2 weeks. Pot's $45,400,000. I didn't need their $2,000, but they needed to know what they'd done. They needed to see who they really were, and I was going to show them. It was almost midnight when I found myself parked outside Miss Evelyn's building. I wasn't planning to come here. I'd just been driving aimlessly, my mind spinning with rage and hurt and a cold calculation of what came next. But my car, like it had a mind of its own, brought me to the one place that had always felt safe. I climbed the 3 flights of stairs. The elevator had been broken for years. I knocked softly on apartment 3B. The door opened. Miss Evelyn stood there in her house dress and slippers, her reading glasses perched on her nose. She took one look at my face and stepped aside. Come in, baby. Her apartment smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. A half-finished puzzle sat on her small dining table. The TV was playing an old episode of Murder, She Wrote. I sat on her floral couch and everything just broke. I told her about Sunday dinner, about the phone calls, about asking for $2,000 and being turned away by every single person I'd ever helped. Miss Evelyn didn't interrupt. She just listened, her weathered hands folded in her lap. When I finished, when my voice finally gave out and the tears stopped, she stood up. She walked to her bedroom without a word. I heard a drawer open. She came back holding a white envelope. It was worn soft from being handled. On the front, in her shaky handwriting, it said rent money. She held it out to me. It's not $2,000, she said quietly. It's $650. It's all I have right now. It's for my rent, due on the 1st. But you take it. I stared at the envelope. I couldn't speak. Take it, Amara, she insisted. It'll buy you some time. You can stay here on my couch. We'll go to the food bank tomorrow. We'll figure it out together. This 68-year-old woman living on Social Security was offering me her rent money. The rent money she needed to keep a roof over her own head. While my mother with her paid-off house said no. While my brother planning a $5,000 vacation said no. While my uncle with his video games and big-screen TV said no. No, I whispered, my hands trembling. No, Miss Evelyn, I can't. You need that. You'll get evicted. She grabbed my hand and closed my fingers around the envelope. Money can be made again, she said, her voice fierce. But your dignity, baby, that's something else. Don't you let them take that from you. She squeezed my hand tighter. Your grandmother Alpha, God rest her soul, she would never let you sleep on the street. Not while there was breath in her body, and not while there's breath in mine. She looked me dead in the eye. Family ain't just blood, Amara. Family is the hand that pulls you up when you're down. It's not the one that pushes you down further. I broke. I fell into her arms and sobbed. The kind of deep, ugly crying that comes from a place you usually keep locked away. This was the first real emotion I'd felt since I saw that lottery notification. Not the 88 million. That was just shock. Just relief. Just logistics. This was real. This small, elderly woman who had nothing was offering me everything. While the people who had everything offered me nothing. Why? I finally whispered, pulling back to look at her face. Why are you always so kind to me? Miss Evelyn smiled. Because I see you, baby. I always have. Just like your grandmother did. I thought about my grandmother, about how she was the only one who ever believed in me. Who told me I was going to do great things? She died before she could see any of it happen. But she'd left me something. A small property in Vine City. An old house she'd owned for 40 years. My mother and Marcus had been pressuring me to sell it for months. Said it was just sitting there rotting. Said we could split the money. I'd been resisting because it was the last piece of my grandmother I had left. Now, sitting in Miss Evelyn's apartment, holding the rent money of a woman who had nothing, I made a decision. I gently pushed the envelope back into Miss Evelyn's hands. You keep this, I said, my voice steady now. You need it more than I do. But Amara. I just remembered something, I interrupted. I have an asset. Something I forgot about. I'm going to be okay. I promise. It wasn't a lie. It was the truest thing I'd ever said. I was going to be more than okay. And Miss Evelyn, the only person who passed the test, was going to be okay too. Monday morning, my phone rang. It was Marcus. Yo, sis, he said, his voice suddenly friendly. Listen, I've been thinking about your situation. I might be able to help you out. I sat up straighter. Really? Yeah, but not with cash. I don't have 2,000 lying around. But I got another idea. Here it comes, I thought. You know Grandma's house in Vine City? He continued. The one that's just sitting there? Mom and I have been talking. We should sell it. Split the money 3 ways. Your cut would be like 20, maybe 30,000. That'd solve your problem, right? 20 or 30,000. For my 1/3 of a property worth $700,000. I don't know, Marcus, I said, playing my part. That's Grandma's house. It's all I have left of her. Come on, Amara. Be practical. The place is falling apart. Roof's leaking. Windows are broken. It's just costing us money in property taxes. And you need cash now, right? How much are we talking? I asked. I got a buddy who's a real estate investor. He'll give us a quick cash offer. No inspections, no hassle. We could close in like a week. You'd have your money by next Friday. Let me think about it, I said. Don't think too long, Marcus said. This opportunity won't last forever. My buddy's got other properties he's looking at. He hung up. I immediately called Hakeem Washington. They're moving on the house, I said. Just like you predicted. Excellent, he said. Now we wait for them to make their move. Don't sign anything without me reviewing it first. I won't. And Amara? Make sure you record everything. Every conversation. Every text. Every promise they make. I will. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for them to walk into it. 3 days later, Marcus texted me an address. A document services office in a strip mall off I-285. Not a law office. Not a title company. A notary public in a sad little storefront next to a check cashing place. Red flag number 1. Come tomorrow at 2 p.m., the text said. Bring your ID. We'll get the paperwork done. I arrived at 1:55 p.m. Marcus and Shayna were already there, sitting in plastic chairs in a waiting room that smelled like mildew and desperation. Hey sis, Marcus said, jumping up. He was nervous. I could tell. Thanks for coming. This is going to be quick and painless. A large man behind a folding table waved us over. He had a notary stamp and a stack of papers. Miss Mitchell? He said, not looking up. I just need you to sign here, here, and here. He slid the papers toward me. I looked at them. The stack was at least 20 pages thick. Can I read these first? I asked, my voice small and uncertain. Shayna sighed loudly. Amara, it's just standard paperwork. It's all legal mumbo-jumbo. You wouldn't understand it anyway. Wouldn't understand it. What they didn't know was that I'd spent the last 3 years working as a remote paralegal specializing in real estate law. I'd reviewed hundreds of property contracts. I could read this in my sleep. But I played dumb. I just want to make sure I know what I'm signing. It's a sales agreement, Marcus said impatiently. You're agreeing to sell your third of the house. That's it. Simple. I picked up the papers and started reading. It took me exactly 3 seconds to see what they were doing. The document wasn't a sales agreement. The title at the top read, Disclaimer of Interest and Voluntary Relinquishment. They weren't buying my share. They were trying to trick me into giving it up for nothing. I kept reading, my face blank. There was a separate document stapled to the back. A personal loan agreement where Marcus would lend me $20,000, which I would have to pay back with 20% interest. They were stealing my inheritance and putting me in debt to them. It was fraud. Clear, prosecutable fraud. It was perfect. This looks really complicated, I said, my voice shaking. I'm not sure I understand all the legal terms. Just sign it, Amara, Marcus snapped. We don't have all day. I fumbled with the pen. Then, as if by accident, I dropped it. Oh God, I'm sorry, I said, bending down to pick it up. Under the table, hidden from view, I pulled my phone from my pocket. I pressed the voice recorder app. The red recording light started blinking. I slipped the phone into my shirt pocket, microphone pointing out. I came back up, holding the pen. Okay, I said. So just to be clear, I signed this and I get the $20,000 for my part of Grandma's house? Yes, Shayna said, her voice sharp with impatience. That is exactly what it is. Sign the damn paper so we can all get out of here. Perfect. She'd just given me exactly what I needed. A recorded admission of what they were claiming the document said, when the actual document said something completely different. Fraud, recorded, witnessed, notarized. I signed the papers. Marcus practically snatched them off the table. Great, he said, breathing a sigh of relief. We'll get your money to you in a few days, once everything clears. Thanks, Marcus, I said softly. He and Shayna practically ran out of that office. I sat there for a moment after they left. Then I smiled. A small, cold, satisfied smile. Hook, line, and sinker. The meeting was set for 10 a.m. on a Friday. The conference room on the 40th floor of Hakeem Washington's building was silent and expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked all of Atlanta. The table was solid mahogany. The chairs were Italian leather. I sat on one side of the table, wearing a tailored black suit I'd bought the day before. My hair was pulled back. I looked like a CEO. Hakeem Washington sat beside me in his 3-piece suit. Next to him, 2 associates with matching leather portfolios. Across from us sat Marcus, Shayna, and my mother. They looked small and cheap in this room. Marcus in his too tight suit. Shayna in animal print. My mother in her church dress, clutching her purse like a shield. I don't understand why we're here, my mother said, her voice sharp. Amara signed the papers. We had a deal. Actually, Hakeem said, his voice smooth and cold. We're here because that deal was fraudulent. He pressed a button on the conference table. A speaker came to life. Shayna's voice, sharp and cruel, filled the room. That is exactly what it is. Sign the damn paper so we can all get out of here. The recording clicked off. Shayna's face went white. What is that? Marcus demanded. You recorded us? Georgia is a one-party consent state, Hakeem said calmly. Recording is perfectly legal. So what? Shayna shot back, her voice cracking. She still signed it. She agreed. She agreed to what she was told the document said, Hakeem replied, which was a lie. He slid a document across the table. This is what she actually signed. A disclaimer of interest. Not a purchase agreement. You were stealing her inheritance while claiming to buy it. My mother grabbed the paper with shaking hands. She read it, her face going gray. Jamal, she whispered. Marcus, what did you do? Marcus couldn't speak. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. This is fraud, Hakeem continued. Wire fraud. Since the initial contact was via text. Conspiracy. And given the property value, grand larceny. You're looking at 5 to 10 years in federal prison. No, my mother gasped. No, we didn't know. Marcus, tell them we didn't know. Actually, I spoke for the first time, my voice cold and clear. I have something else to show you. I nodded to Hakeem. He slid another paper across the table. It was a bank statement. My mother picked it up. She squinted at it. Then her eyes went wide. 45, she whispered. 45 million. The number seemed to break something in her brain. She just stared. Marcus snatched the paper. He looked at it. At me. At the paper again. Where did you? He started. Powerball, I said simply. 3 weeks ago. $88 million jackpot. I won. Total silence. The $2,000, I continued, my voice steady, the eviction, the desperate phone calls. That was a test. I wanted to see who you really were. You failed. Shayna found her voice. It came out as a shriek. You set us up. You had $45 million and you let us think you were broke. You're a monster. No, I said quietly. I'm just someone who finally learned who her real family is. We can fix this, Marcus said desperately. Sis, come on. We made a mistake. We didn't know you had money. We'll tear up the papers. We'll forget this whole thing. Hakeem leaned forward. Here are your options. Option 1, criminal prosecution. We hand everything to the DA. You both go to prison. Pause. Option 2, you sell your shares of the Vine City property to my client, immediately. For how much? My mother whispered. For $20,000, I said. Total. The same amount you tried to steal from me. But that property is worth $700,000, Marcus yelled. Yes, Hakeem said. And if you don't take this deal, you'll get nothing except a prison sentence. I looked at my mother, at my brother, at Shayna. You have 60 seconds to decide. 6 months later, I stood in front of a renovated house in Vine City. The old rotting structure was gone, replaced by something beautiful. New windows, a strong porch, fresh paint and warm, welcoming colors. A sign hung over the door, the Alpha Mitchell House, Center for Women's Financial Empowerment. Miss Evelyn stood beside me, tears in her eyes. Your grandmother would be so proud, she whispered. The house wasn't mine alone anymore. It was for women like me, women who'd been told they weren't enough, who'd been used and discarded by their families. Inside, we offered financial literacy classes, legal aid, job training, a safe place to rebuild. Miss Evelyn ran the place. I'd given her a real salary, health insurance, and apartment in a new building I'd bought in West End. Her apartment had a working elevator and a view of the park. My mother tried to call me 3 times after the conference room. I never answered. Marcus sent texts, apologies, promises to change, pleas for help. I blocked his number. They'd made their choice. Now they had to live with it. As for me, I stood on the porch of my grandmother's house, now filled with women who needed a second chance, and I finally felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The test was over, and I'd found my real family. Not in the people who shared my blood, but in the ones who held out their hand when I needed it most.